Yay for Australian journals, especially ones I can be positive about. While the Quirky Cup Collective journal I am reviewing today isn't perfect, there is so much to like about it that it is still worth a look, especially if you like the aesthetic. Hi, I'm Ruby from The Useful Journal. Like this video and subscribe to my channel for a huge range of dot grid journal reviews for journals ranging from 52 GSM to 160 to 180 GSM. Today I'm reviewing a Quirky Cup Collective Made of Stars journal. I will tell you a little bit about the company and their products. I will talk about the packaging, the markings, the features of the journal. I will go through the construction of the journal. I will talk about the paper and the pen test, which includes watercolor test. And finally, I will talk to you about environmental and social responsibility. Quirky Cup Collective is an Australian company from Adelaide in South Australia. There's a lovely piece on the Quirky Cup Collective website that describes how Sydonie started out by painting personalised teacups with quirky sayings for her friends and then expanded into the business she has today. Quirky Cup Collective sells journals with beautiful covers, and I would describe them as having a celestial, spiritual or mystical theme. They're completely original in the world of dot grid journals, and there's a huge range. In addition to dot grid journals, they also have planners and guided reading journals. They have a whole lot of other products too, and I especially like the stamp sets that are perfect for creating your reading journal. There are a growing number of online sellers in Australia and Asia, but never fear because you can buy directly from the Quirky Cup Collective site and products will be shipped internationally. How do I describe the colours? There's a lot of purple, a bit of pink, and then some deep blues, greens and black, with some of them having a gradient colour. The new reading journal for 2024 is crimson. My Made of Stars journal is purple with gold foil. Journals are only available in the A5 size. They come in a paper cover or leatherette. The standard journals come in a choice of 160 dot grid and blank pages in 160 GSM, 180 lined pages in 100 GSM, and some journals come with a black page option, which is 160, 120 GSM pages. The Literati journals have 220 pages. The Made of Stars 160 GSM 160 page journal works out at around 18 US cents a page. That's the same as for a standard Archer and Olive journal. This means it's sitting at the premium end of the range, although there are a few journals that are more expensive than that. The journal is delivered in a shipping box that is 80% recycled material. The journal itself comes wrapped in thin plastic and has a belly band. There are no free gifts. The journal name is stamped on the front cover and the brand is stamped on the back along with the cover design. There is no closure, no pocket and no pen loop. My one doesn't have a bookmark ribbon, but all the new release journals come with one bookmark ribbon. Quirky Cup Collective also have paper bookmarks that match the cover design available for purchase. The journals all have gilded page edges and square corners. The Made of Stars journal in the dot grid version weighs 510 grams and is 20 millimeters thick, which is pretty average for this size journal. The journal has a stitched book spine and feels really substantial when you hold it. The pages are well protected inside the edges of the cover. When you open the journal, it stays open and the pages are almost flat. Perhaps once the spine has been broken in and if you press down, it would stay flat, but the pages are kind of springy at the moment. There are 10 signatures. Unfortunately, in my journal, the gluing between the signatures is uneven, with more glue at the top of the page and very little at the bottom, with the binding exposed at the bottom end of the join between all the signatures. I've had this problem in my Scribbles That Matter journal and it hasn't affected the durability. It just means that when you get to the join page, firstly, you can see part of the binding, and secondly, you have to carefully crease the page from the top to make it even, or pull apart the glue at the top. What I've also learnt from comments on my Scribbles That Matter review is that this is by no means going to happen in every journal, so I may have just been unlucky. The journal cover lining pages have a lovely design and include the owner page. Following the thicker lining page, you enter straight into the dot grid pages. There are no markings other than the dot grid, for instance, no page numbers. There are 26 dots across the page and 37 dots down the page. The dots seem light, a pale grey that doesn't stand out on the ivory paper, but they are slightly larger than usual, which is why I think they tested darker than average. The lines of dots vary a tiny bit in the distance from the long edge of the page, and therefore also the centre of the page, but are a consistent distance from the top and the bottom. The variation is minimal and it's not something that would bother me. The lines of dots are always straight. The thing that might annoy some people is the 5.5mm dot grid spacing. There are only 18 boxes every 10 centimetres, which rules out using a ruler because it gets confusing and you won't be able to use stationery that spaces things according to a 5mm grid. The paper doesn't feel super smooth, but is surprisingly smooth to write on with a fountain pen. When I did my watercolour test that reveals the properties of the paper, there was spotting of the watercolour for the wet on wet technique, which means that the paint is soaking into the paper fibres unevenly, possibly because of fillers between the fibres designed to smooth the paper. For the pen test, all I can say is wow. This is the only journal I've reviewed with 160 GSM paper where even the ultrafine Sharpie pen doesn't ghost through the paper. That's an alcohol-based pen. I was surprised by this, so I tested again with my fine Sharpie and then with a permanent marker, and they didn't ghost through the page either. Nothing. Absolutely nothing gets through this paper. Even watercolour with dark pigments and lots of water, stamp pad inks and drawing inks. Nothing at all. This paper is amazing. Lead pencil erases cleanly, and both the whiteout tape and the jelly roll pen worked as whiteouts. The fountain pen didn't feather as such, but the width of the pen stroke was thicker than normal for my Pilot Metropolitan medium nib pen. While there was no feathering for the fountain pen, I was surprised by the weird feathering for the Stettler marker. I've never seen a result like that, so I tested it again. This is a recurring theme in this journal. With the same colour Stettler, which came out a lighter colour, and a blue one as well, and they were fine. No idea what happened there, but it doesn't seem to be a problem with the paper, rather it seems to be a problem with my pen. What I was also surprised about was the drying time for a micron pen. Even after 20 seconds, the pen's still smeared when I wiped my finger across the ink. It takes ages to dry. The ink just doesn't soak into the paper, which may partly explain why there's no ghosting and bleed through. I am not very patient and I struggle when inks don't dry quickly and I make a mess of my page, but I always seem to be able to fix it up by using whiteout or cutting out a piece of paper and covering it, so it's not the end of the world, it's just a little bit annoying. There was only minimal smearing when highlighting over the Micron pen. Because of the lack of bleed through, watercolour worked well and barely caused any page wrinkle even when I used a lot of water. Like in my scribble and dot journal, I had to cover up the original watercolour painting because I was so embarrassed by it. I used this gorgeous sticker that comes as a roll from Altenew. I was able to achieve shading in my watercolour paintings and my granulating paints looked lovely. The only downside of using a lot of water is, as I noted earlier, dots start to appear in your painting. Quirky Cup Collective is a small business with a small staff, so don't share information about working conditions, but they do note that even though they're small, they do have a responsibility to be environmentally friendly. The Quirky Cup Collective journals don't have FSC paper from Sustainable Forestry, and they also don't have any recycled content in their journals. They do use packing boxes made from recycled material and try to reduce their environmental impact in the way they operate their business and the materials they use, for instance, minimising the use of plastics. They also pay a monthly carbon offset. One thing I especially love about the Quirky Cup Collective journals is the beautiful and original covers. The journals feel lovely both inside and out, and the gilded edges on the pages give it that extra luxe feel. You can use any pen in this journal and even get away with alcohol-based pens, which I have never seen before in a 160 GSM journal. On the downside, gel pens take a long time to dry, like Pigma Microns, and so there's a bit of smearing. The grid is a very annoying 5.5 millimeters across and down, and you have to fiddle around a bit to get that join page flat. Hopefully that is not a problem across the brand. Overall, if you love the aesthetic, I wouldn't hesitate to buy one. The reading journals also look amazing. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out some of my other videos for a bit of journaling inspo. See ya!